Everyone has a story to tell. It's my mission to tell it. Unscripted, unedited, we are on the record. Hi everyone, I'm Serena Fazan, a journalist, producer, and the host of On the Record. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, such a heartbreaking story of loss, but also a parent's mission to give back. Joining me in the studio is Kim and Mike Ortoll. I'm trying to get that name right. Ortoll.
Right.
We have to have a little humor to start the show, right? This is unedited, unscripted, so there's always a little bit of humor.
Especially with this topic.
Yes, especially with this topic. We're sharing today the loss of your beautiful daughter at the age of only 26 and a fight over addiction. Can you just, why don't we start with you, Kim, and just tell us about your beautiful girl.
She was a very, very special girl. She had a fantastic personality. People loved her. Funny personality. She would make anybody laugh at any given time. We started off her life with, I coded in childbirth with her.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, and so the epidural did an uptake as opposed to going down, and I stopped breathing and heart stopped. I had to be resuscitated and had a C-section, and so we started off the world in a very difficult situation, but she was great and she was healthy and almost 10 pounds. And
wow, out of this little body?
I know.
Out of this little body, Christine comes out of this little body.
Yeah.
Christine, your beautiful daughter,
Yes.
Christine. Oh my goodness, wow.
So, but through the years, she was always pretty happy, but getting into the high school years is when things started to change for her.
So Mike, turning to you, how could you sense that in high school?
It was right before high school. There was a lot of counseling, that she'd go to, and I had a sense that she was just battling something, it's horrible because you want to fix them, and what I've learned is you can't fix them. You can kind of take the horse to water, and then high school got worse.
How old was she at this time? At 14? Was she a freshman in high school when all of this began, or when would you say this?
I think the first time that we really, really recognized this was she had a high school boyfriend, and they got into a fight, and she told her boyfriend that she had taken a bottle of pills, which she had not, but just to let that, try to wake him up to whatever she wanted to wake him up for.
Kind of like a desperate attempt, like, look, I love you, or I care about you so much that I'm willing to do this because of the breakup.
Yes. And he proceeded to continually call her, and she was not answering, so he called the police. And the police showed up, and no one was at the home at that time, and they Baker acted her.
You're kidding.
They Baker acted her, and so she first went to the hospital, and the doctor said she didn't take, I think they said maybe she had taken maybe 1 or 2 Xanax, but not a whole bottle. But then the doctor said we would not have Baker acted her, but since the police did it, they had to send her to a facility.
Isn't that something?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, because it is true. Like if someone is called, if the police are called, and there is that's the way it works in the state of Florida. So as parents, how were you alerted, and what happened next? And did this start the spiral?
Yeah, I had a girlfriend at the time that taught at a school right next to the house, so I had to go there, and she had unfortunately told her boyfriend that she had taken 8 or a bunch of them, right? So that's all they had to go on, right? And they were assuming that she had taken all those, right? It wasn't until they found out later that she really didn't. But the takeaway from me was that was a big sign, right? That was a big sign that even though she didn't take 8, and she may have taken 1 or 2, there was a the battle going on with emotional regulation there,
Yes,
and
and what
mental
was
disorder.
going on with your
Yeah.
baby girl?
Yeah.
Wow. But what was going on with her? I mean, I know about the boyfriend, but
Yeah.
was she, I mean, was there anxiousness? I mean, was there?
She had a lot of anxiety. There were times where you could just look at her and she'd say, "Mommy, did I do something wrong, or are you mad at me?" So it's that kind of started early on. Even when she was little, you'd look at her and she'd go, "Oh, are you mad at me? Did I do something wrong?" But then leading into the high school years, and then the boyfriends and the
drama of
drama of high school, and so it really affected her.
Was there, again, the show is unedited, unscripted,
Yes.
and if any of these questions, I'm sorry, I'm just asking, as a journalist, was there a history at all in the family of any type of, depression?
Oh, I
or
think there is a
anxiety?
history, at least on my part. I can speak for myself. There's a history of trauma. Immigrants. I was born here, but we went back to Cuba. My dad was a political prisoner of war. My grandfather was a communist and put him in prison.
Oh my gosh.
So I didn't see my mom till 7. My dad till 12. So there is a major history that I had to deal with where I kind of put my emotions and stuff in a cupboard. I think Christine had a lot of trauma. She was the most perfect child. She didn't show it, And it was like mini-me. I always presented that fun, jovial, didn't want to deal with it. Christine just was, kind of funny and pleased everybody. She was literally the perfect girl. And the signs started developing in high school. And now I know, because now we've got a charity. You're not in the middle. When a parent's in the middle of this, it's tough to remove yourself, and you're in the desperation of what to do. And it's hard enough being married. It's tougher when, you're divorced, But the one good thing about us is we both always wanted to do what was in the best interest of Christine. And there was never, I don't think a stone that wasn't turned. Over 20 facilities, everyone, whether it was insurance or not, but, the proverbial, I don't know, I don't think I ever knew the trauma she had. There was a lot there. And, and if you look at the leading psychiatrists and those people that, that do addiction, psychiatry for addiction, Dr. Gabor Mate being the best, people medicate because of trauma. 90% of the people that are long-term drug users, or we try to destigmatize the disease now, that are people that suffer from substance use disorder, they medicate because they don't know what to do with their trauma.
It's medicinal therapy.
And that's one of the things we're trying to do with this documentary and with this charity, is just provide awareness and education on there's ways, there's a lot of science out there that shares how to deal with people.
And we're
that
going
have
to
this
talk,
disorder.
and we are going to talk more about the documentary in the second half of the show. And in fact, invite the producer, John Corey, onto the show. We're so happy that he's able to be here from Los Angeles and share the documentary and the mission of the documentary. Kim, with you, and gosh, I just want to come over and give you a hug. So, with the trauma starting, or you sensed your daughter in high school,
Yes.
it just progressively ended up getting worse.
Yes.
You said 20 facilities.
Yes.
So, when did you start seeing it? When did it get to the point that you just knew you had to get her some more professional?
help.
Yes.
Right after high school, immediately after high school, she had a boyfriend that we didn't really know about until that point, and he had quit high school. He sold pot as a a way of
making a living.
making a living. And he lived right around the corner from us. And next thing you know, she just, after high school, slid right into
That relationship.
that relationship and his apartment, and smoking pot every day. And then she was very volatile. It was a very volatile relationship. And so there was the police called several times, you know, with them fighting, and we knew that there was something seriously going wrong. So we started investigating, because at that point we truly believed that she was addicted to pot. It didn't seem like there was anything else involved, but then the emotional roller coaster, we needed more help than we could do just with like a weekly therapy session. And so then we figured it out, and she went to a place up in Tennessee called the Ranch.
And so
We almost did a family intervention and hired
Yeah.
somebody high-end to find out the best place in the country to kind
Wow.
of diagnose her and figure out a place. And we all agreed on it. Here's a person we're going to hire. We're going to get a diagnosis. You know, imagine going through all this, and then we're going to pick the place that's best suited for her. So
and you found the place in Tennessee.
we found a place.
You
Yeah.
found the ranch in
The
Tennessee.
Ranch.
So Christine goes through, it's, as you mentioned, Kim, it's a roller coaster, as you said tonight. But at the point where she loses her life, though, there was a lot of light and happiness. She'd been on the path to recovery.
Yes.
I know it's extremely painful, but you both as parents must have been, she got engaged, 3 years, right? 3 years. She had not.
Nearly 3 years.
Nearly
Just,
3 years.
just under 3 years.
Just under 3 years.
So what happened? She was working, and she was actually working at a recovery center.
Yes, and she was doing such a great job. She was getting promotions, yet she was happy. And another guy came into the picture, and it just threw her, because she was engaged at the time, and it just completely threw her off track. And then the guy that she was engaged to was such an amazing person, and
It's okay.
But then this other person came into the picture, and she went right back to the roller coaster of emotions and what she should do, and she broke up with her fiance, and that's when it really hit the fan.
And then she.
So went back into treatment, which she basically checked herself in to the rehab center that she was working at. And the boyfriend, the new guy, worked there as well. So, and then it was just a nightmare.
And she passed away after taking Xanax with fentanyl, right? Laced
Well,
with fentanyl.
it was it was New Year's Eve, 2020, and I remember I was outside the country, landing in a city, and Kim called me. That was the only place Christine would go, because that's really where we wouldn't have picked that place. Not that it was a bad place, just that's kind of don't go back to the scene of the crime, right?
Right.
To take ourselves away from that, so things didn't go the way she wanted to with him, so she left. And at that point, Kim and I had to sit down and really, and we'll talk about more details about all this later, but it was literally a year of so much evil. The last 10 months of her life, we saw so much evil, and that, which is why we're doing the charity and documentary that no parent, no family should have to deal with. The things that she was in, literally, she probably went through 4 or 5 treatment centers. She went to a couple where she'd go for a day or two and leave. He'd come over, we'd see her, she'd be fine, then, the gentleman would see her and it would, throw her off. So we couldn't get her to really focus on herself.
Right.
Right? And she had all this trauma that, so we tried to, get her somewhere where they can get her, so we couldn't. So we finally had a marksman actor. And we talk about a lot that in the documentary and kind of give families the tools of what to do with their loved ones. This is what a Baker Act does and what a Marchman Act does. It basically makes the courts keep that person in treatment, because if not, that person goes to jail.
I know, because I was going to ask you, for those who may not know what that means.
And it's not in all states, but it's in states like, very few states do it. In Florida, it's called Marchman Act. So she was mandated by court, and she actually fell in line. She did a month in a place outside Tampa, and then she came back to a local place here that we embraced, and that's where she got sober, a great place. She did 90 days there, and 2 days out, there was a mole in their treatment facility. That happens a lot, that traffic women, and she ended up in a bad place. She ended up going to this horrible place. We didn't know where she was. She finally kind of called for help, and we picked her up and took her to Tennessee.
Bless her heart. We just did a special on trafficking, on human trafficking, and I'm so sorry I didn't realize that your daughter was also a victim of human trafficking. We are going to bring in the producer shortly, but I want to go somewhere first before we go to the commercial break. As I sit here and I listen to this, heartbreaking and gut-wrenching story of your daughter, why is it that why do you feel she let so many boys, started with boys, teenage boys, and men then influence her life so much? I know we see it, of course we see it, but why did she, do you feel, like as a mom? Was there something lacking? Because you both are very strong parents, so why?
I think she definitely had, daddy issues. I think having a divorce, and she was young. I mean, for years she would just bring me pictures of, her in the middle and mom and dad on the sides and us holding hands. I mean, that continued for years.
How old was she when you got divorced?
Oh my goodness! I mean, she
was 3 when we split up, and she was 6 when
and I'm talking about
divorce.
12, 13 till middle school. She did that,
would say.
wanting us back together. Or Michael, our son, was older, and he got it. Mom and dad love us, and they're better off, not being together. Christine, that was her role. She lived in this perfect community, went to the most beautiful schools.
And parents
and
many parents were together.
So I think that turned into a major trauma, that and who knows what. But I mean, for me,
but
she was a mini me, and I
yeah.
Thank
But
you.
the thing is that people would look at us and say, we still spent, birthdays, Christmas, Thanksgiving. We'd all go out to dinner together. I mean, so we were not like the typical divorced family. We did as much as we could to, spend time together and try to make it
normal.
enjoyable.
Yeah, no, but thank you. I mean, honestly, thank you for sharing this, because clearly you two are both wonderful people, but sometimes two wonderful people are just not meant to be together. They're meant to be with somebody else. You, as you've exhibited, you've really tried to give that family unit, but yet your daughter, no matter, I guess what we're trying to share is no matter what you do sometimes, it's their own individual heart and soul.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine. I hurt so much trying to figure out what she went through, and just seeing the evil the last 10 months of her life brought to her. And as a dad, I had a lot of days where I was, at the end, wanting to do things that weren't healthy, because of people that hurt her, because of the position she was in. And, so I know a bunch of it was, but I'd go to Kim's house for the holidays and Christine loved it. It was fun. It was she loved that. I mean, Daddy and her time were great, but when I was there with her mom and with her family, it made her feel whole. So I know she always felt like that she had a hole in her, and I'd give it all to find out what would it have taken to have healed that hole, So I think we did. There's no doubt in my mind. At the beginning, you have the guilt, you're ashamed. For me, it was faith-based therapy and just a lot of Al-Anon work and the things that I maybe didn't want to do before. And this has turned into my life's purpose. And she's no longer suffering, and she's at peace. But I would have done anything to figure, but it's not our work. We didn't.
Yeah.
The saying in treatment is, we didn't cause it, we can't cure it, we're not God, but we can contribute. And I know we probably contributed not purposely, right? Because at the beginning, I was the one, she was the tough one, Kim was. I was the enabler. And, so I share this story from the bottom, just authentically so I could help. But at the end, I was a tough one. Kim was up in the air, and we finally marched and acted her together. Joined force, we're going to march and act her. And she knew she needed it. She did her time. But you could see the trauma and the disease is so strong. 2 days out, she got herself into a situation that was way beyond her pay grade. And it spiraled. And at that time, it was more than just, opium. It was everything. And that, the degree of the disease progresses and the relapse progresses. And reading, I know Kim must have felt the same way. We almost didn't want to, there was already so much heartbreak. But every time she went somewhere and she was discharged or she left, when you would look at like kind of the diagnosis, the prognosis, and what she was on, it was like saying my daughter has cancer and it's 3B, and she's at death's door, and that's what I was operating from, is that call, which we finally got from our son.
Tell me about that.
So she had been up in Tennessee for a couple of months. She was a nanny to a beautiful family. I mean, they just loved her, and she loved them to death. And everything was going great. I mean, she was sober, and we felt as though we definitely couldn't have her here because she had way too many contacts of people that she shouldn't be with. And so she was doing really well, and we don't know why or if anything happened or what, but she went and got some drugs. And she didn't show up to work the next morning, and they were like banging on her door, and she wasn't answering, and they thought that she was just out, shopping or whatever, and not showing up to work. And they finally broke down the door, and she was in there. So Michael, our son, called me, and I was walking into the dollar store at that moment, and he said, "Mom, you gotta sit down." I'm like, what's going on? He goes, "Mom, just sit down. You gotta sit down right now." And I knew it was bad. And he said, she's gone. She died. And she was at their, at the nanny's at the house. And that's the day my whole life changed.
At this point, why don't we go to a quick break, and we'll bring in John, and we'll talk about, what you're doing in her memory to save another young person or anybody that is dealing with addiction. Yeah. Because truly what you're doing is amazing, and if one life can be saved, I mean, what a purpose, right? So stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back right after this.
I'm Serena Fazan, a journalist, producer, and podcast host. With a background in television news, I know how much time and talent it takes to produce a broadcast quality production. But no more. Red House Streaming offers a simple, cost-effective method for capturing live action and streaming it in real time to YouTube, Facebook, or any other website. From single camera shoots or multi-camera productions, conventional or virtual sets, and from the state-of-the-art Red House Streaming Studios to remote locations, the professional crew at Red House Streaming, backed by the technology and reputation of CP Communications, allows you to produce more content at a lower cost and with little to no engineering required. That's why my podcast, On the Record with Serena Fazan, is streamed live from the Red House Streaming Studios each week. Contact Red House Streaming today at 800-762-4254 or online at cpcoms.com to learn more. I'll see you in the studio.
At Precision, our mission is more than fixing broken garage doors
I think it looks great.
and selling new ones.
It looks amazing.
We aim to help those in need and to honor and lift up those who are making a difference
Thank you so much.
through our outreach program called Opening Doors in Our Community. People like Steve Chamberlain, who is fitting kids with prosthetic legs,
The people I've met, the families, we've changed so many lives.
or members of the military,
I'm the airman.
Oh boy, and I'm in the Army.
like Frank Elliott.
We're teamwork, right?
Exactly,
That's why we're here for you today.
We appreciate
Yeah,
that.
we appreciate you.
And of course, the people on the front lines during COVID, like Jessica, an ER nurse. At Precision, we want to thank everyday heroes for all you do. It was an honor to help you, and together, we are opening doors in our community.
Thanks everybody for coming back and joining us on this show. We are remembering your beautiful daughter, Christine Ortol, and who sadly lost her life over addiction. Joining us right now is John Corey, actually, who is coming. I mean, you live in Los Angeles and you live here now, right, John? Mm-hmm. And you're a producer. Give us a little bit of history about yourself.
Well, I went to Florida State University. I grew up around here, went to Seminole High, and Mike and I shared a fraternity house for about 2.5 years and survived. I went off into the Air Force and ended up producing movies and films and combat camera. And then I got out in 1990, and I've been in commercial film and television ever since. So recently, in the last 4 years, I've had the opportunity to come back to Florida and do a number of projects. And I'd never had that opportunity before then, but just a number of things came together. And one of them was a film called The Bowden Dynasty. And Mike and 2 other fraternity brothers were funders of the film. And we just had a ball making it. We were making a film about a guy that we felt we really wanted to tell his story. So it was just a fun experience. And out of that, Mike and I connected more and more. And just last year, well, and then of course I got the call from Mike with the news, and I helped let other of our mutual friends know about the funeral arrangements and things like that. And then last year, I was producing a film here in Tampa about a cafe, Revelations Cafe. And Mike and I met there and just started talking. And I think with the Bowden experience and also watching the film about Revelations Cafe come together, it's a quirky cafe. It's faith-based and plant-based and put together by 2 people who met in an AA meeting. And so Robbie naturally had Robbie and me are the owners, and Robbie got to talking to Mike, and that's where they just sort of hit it off and started having a number of conversations. And from my point of view, Mike started thinking about what he could do to give back. And as he started getting his resolve and his strength back, he approached me and he said, what if we did, he was thinking about doing a charity and thinking about Christine's story. And what if we did a documentary film about what we went through? So maybe other people watching it will be able to learn something and maybe head off some of the things that didn't go right.
Firstly, John, thank you also for your service to this country. There's not enough thanks. I always tell anybody who served, thank you. And you are a pretty big deal. I mean, he's being very modest right now with everything that he does. So it's amazing that you're taking part in this project. Why do you think it's important to do a documentary?
Well, this subject right now, what's going on with fentanyl in this country, it's unbelievable. The ease with which it's made, the ease with which it comes over the border. They can just send drones now with this stuff. It's permeating all parts of our society. And how much stronger is fentanyl than heroin, Mike?
It's 50 times stronger than heroin and 100 times more strong. 100 times more stronger than heroin, 50 more times than morphine.
Yeah, can you imagine? Heroin is strong enough. The pull of 100 times. I can't imagine that. So that and Christine was taking something. She didn't know there was fentanyl. She knew the dangers of fentanyl. But who you can trust your dealer these days? Who can you
Right.
trust? So I just think our film is just a red flag to let people know that it's out there and the dangers around it, because it not only is it deadly, 2 milligrams will kill the average adult, but it's highly addictive.
So hold on for 1 second with that thought. Going back to Christine, so, and of course we've talked about her history and you've been very open about her history. Do you feel that if she had known there was fentanyl, she would have stayed away from it?
That's a great question. When she was down in that really bad situation, they were shooting her with fentanyl. During that time. So possibly she may have known that it was in. I don't believe that she did, because she wasn't taking anything that would have normally fentanyl would have been in and laced with, but we don't know. We don't know.
Serena, I don't know. I mean, when she passed, she had Narcan next to her. Which isn't going to save you, because who's going to administer it, you know?
And for those who don't know what
Yeah.
Narcan is, can you explain that?
Yeah, Narcan is a device that can literally bring you back, back from life and not overdose. So it negates it, the chemical compounds in it negate the effects of whatever you use, which is an opiate, right, to potentially kill you and overdose you. So she had that by her bedside. So I know Christine didn't want to pass.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, one of the things when you asked John that there's two things that happen here. They're not serendipitous, they're really more providence, I was barely wanting to get up every day, totally depressed. This Revelations Cafe, I wanted to go there because I couldn't imagine reading the Bible. I couldn't imagine surrendering my will and letting go, right?
Because of your daughter.
Because of my daughter, and at the same time being a big FSU booster and us working on the film, this thing happened. Our coach, Bobby Bowden, was getting ill, and it was kind of inner circle. So at the same time, FSU had this college recovery program, which was not really funded well and needed attention. And here I am. I lost my daughter. I can't imagine starting a charity or a documentary. I was literally going to the Revelations Cafe to, God, give me the will to go there and just tell me what to do. And it just kind of happened. I remember being with him and his wife, and she says, Mike, you can trust him. And I knew that, but I just didn't know I was strong enough to do this. At the same time, FSU's going, hey, Mike, we're unfunded. So we talked to our fraternity brothers, and we went to Coach knowing he was at the end of his life, and happened to be in August of last year, 3 weeks before he passed, and he said, I love the idea of you guys giving back half the revenue of this film to the school, and half of it went to the boosters, and half of it went to fund this college recovery program. So at that point, I started feeling good, like we're giving back. There was something, I didn't think there would be anything good that come out of losing a daughter, but this is, she's lost, she's no longer suffering, good came out of it, right? And then all these other things started happening. I kept going more to Revelations Cafe, more, and I finally looked at him and I said, I'm in for the charity and I'm in for the documentary, but one day at a time. And as more time, we spent together in doing this, the stronger we've gotten. The school's been amazing at sharing all their intellectual capital, the social work, the College of Medicine, Addiction Services, their closeness to the Capitol and the governor and all these task force. So it's amazing what we're doing, the call to action, awareness, and literally making change in the society, because now the leading cause of death, for kids, for people between 18 and 45 is fentanyl.
It's unbelievable. That statistic is staggering, and it's awful. And so that's why this documentary is more important than ever, and for you to share your story. Kim, why? I mean, as a mom, I have a 14-year-old. Why did you decide to open up also for this documentary?
Well, this is very difficult for me.
And that's why we so appreciate you being here.
So But again, if it helps one child, if we stop one death, and for parents need to know what's going on in the world, and what's going on in high schools, and when they're out partying and stuff like that. People need to be aware of what is going on right now. And if I can be instrumental in one child's life, then it's worth it.
And it's worth it. That's what I would always say too in the newsroom. John, give us some light for the documentary. When can we expect it to come out? You're featuring more than one family from what I understand, and there is not a title yet.
Right. We're only 4 months in, and we hope to get a little bit more funding so that we can explore some of the storylines that might take more time to develop. But we're looking, right now it's maybe late summer.
Late summer.
So,
And when you say you're looking for more funding, is there a call to action? If, say, someone does want to help and wants to contribute, what can they do? Where can they go? Is there a website, or is
there's a website called the Christine Ortol Recovery Organization,
which we have been showing throughout the show. So that is the website.
I appreciate that.
No, absolutely. We've been showing it throughout the show. We can thank our senior producer, Beth Weber, who said we need to show that throughout the show. But that's the best place to go.
Absolutely. And one of the things we were blessed to be able to do was throw the best people and money at this. And a lot of people don't have 20 plus facilities to go to, or insurance, so we try to make our website educational about everything, and not, Kim brought up something that's very important. It's not just for the person suffering from substance use disorder, it's also for the family. Because when we would go in the old days before COVID, the families would do family group, and what we found out is we all had a hand in it. You didn't cause it, you couldn't cure it, but we can all contribute to it. And I was aware of the things that I did as a parent that could be, you could be supportive, which we want you to be, but you don't want to be codependent and enabler, right? So there's a lot of takeaways for the family here, and assisting them and going to Al-Anon and being the best version of themselves so they don't contribute to that loved one's disease, So what John mentioned is we're very ambitious in our film. So we're all over Washington with the right people. We're all over the insurance community with the health insurers. We really want to make a dent in this thing and get all the stakeholders, the institutions that provide the research and the grant work, like at FSU and others. There's a coalition we've already formed. So we really want all the stakeholders to come to a table and figure out, using science and best evidence data, what is the best things to do? And because we really have a world that is 12-step and AA and harm reduction, and they're fighting because there's a lot of money in the business of recovery.
There's been a lot of controversy, I know, about that. That's a whole other storyline. And don't you think that's a whole other documentary for sure? I mean, there's been a lot of talk about that as well. Kim, let me end with you. What would you like people, or you both, like, what would you like? How would you like your daughter remembered? And do you want to share her sweet nickname? I think it's very sweet.
I'll do it. It pains her.
Right.
I loved it because she would love it but hate it. She'd always tease me like, "Well, Dad, I'm not your critty anymore." Critters. On a soccer field was Crash, and she loved it. I think for me, I let Kim think about it. I wanted to know that her inability to connect is probably what made her lose hope, and I want to do everything possible to make it easier for people to seek what they need rather than it be a fight. To give people, here's the most effective, here's your diagnosis, here's the most effective treatment. And for there not to be, I think in her case, because of a lot of different reasons, she lost her connection with people. Forget about the trauma, just she lost a connection with her recovery community. And it's not anything against them, it's just the way the whole system is set up. I don't want that again. I would love for every child or adult to find a way to keep connected to that community that's going to be supportive, that family, the recovery people, the therapy, whether it's group or individual, and that's what I saw at the end. She just wasn't connected. She felt like she felt like she had lost everybody. And she felt that she had not made us proud. And I want to tell you, she made me proud. She fought through this whole thing. You know, her last letter to me, Dad, we weren't even talking. She was just texting me. Because I knew something was up, and we were just texting. It was very painful. But she was like, Daddy, I just want you to be proud of me. And I go, I am proud of you. You're fighting. And she goes, no. And I didn't know what she was fighting for was connection.
It was connection. Such a powerful message. Is there something you want to add, Kim?
I think you said it all. I just want people to remember her. When people die, they eventually get forgotten, and I don't want that for her legacy. I don't want anybody to ever forget about her, because she was so special and fun and funny, and she was amazing and compassionate. Oh, she loved to help people, and she loved animals, and she had such a huge heart. And this addiction really
Took that away.
took all that away.
Took all that away. Well, we are honored to share her story, and I want to put up a graphic right now because we thank you all of for you being here, and you're here because we've asked viewers if there's a story that they want told, or they want, whether it's business, a love story, a community story, to please contact me. And we go through the stories, and this certainly is a very powerful one. We hope that everybody shares it. We're going to go to another graphic where we're building our social platforms as well, and we just got the news that we're on Roku as well. So thank you so much for that. I so appreciate it. It's a free channel, but the most important thing is hopefully people can watch this. We can share it and remember Christine forever. So John, Corey, Kim, Mike, I know it was difficult to speak out, but we appreciate it. We so appreciate you being here.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you for
us.
having us.
100%.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe.